Okay, so yeah, we can start. Yeah, so right now we have finished relational data model, right? So all these, subtopics we have already gone through. For example, relational algebra we have seen, then we saw the calculus in which we saw TRC and DRC. Then we have a lecture of fundamentals of SQL, right? Now our next subtopic is relational database design, right? So as I just told you, in relational database design, we are going to deal with normalization part, right? So how we can perform the normalization, why there is a requirement, and what generally used to happen in normalization, right? So understand one thing, as I was just saying, right? So all these topics that I'm just telling you, for example, starting from relational data model, then we have relational database design and transactions, and then our data storage and indexing and all, right? So understand one thing. For example, I'm just talking about for the modules, sub modules that we have already finished. Data relational data model. Sorry. And now we are going to do the relational database design, right? So understand this thing, right? There is a kind of independency between these modules. For example, that when we will do indexing and all, right? So whatever we have studied so far in relational data model, relational algebra queries, and SQL and all those, right? So now we're gonna switch completely different to a different module, that is our database design. And then transactions are, again, there is no link, kind of no link between your database design and data models, right? So that's fine. Okay, so for I can understand, probably all of you might not have sufficient practice or queries part and relational algebra, for example, operators, TRC and DRCs, but that's okay, no worries. Right now we can no switch to our next module. So with time you should have the practice for all those things, you can just do it on, right? Now we will start our next sub module, that is relational database design, right? Okay, so you can have this part here. Okay, relational database design, right? So in this one, our main focus will be on normalization, right? So we'll understand what basically the normalization is all about, right? Okay, so let's start. Normalization, basically we say this normalization as some other term. For example, we say this as a schema refinement, right? So that is schema refinement. As the name says, see, schema means the structure of our database, right? So database tables that we have. So refinement, for example, it says what refinement, we are refining the database. How we can refine the database? For example, in our database we have certain type of anomalies, right? We have redundancies, we have some some data related issue. For example, we need to refine all those, right? We need to eliminate all those redundancies, anomalies out of our database. How we can do that, right? So that is what all about normalization that we have, right? So we use the normalization to eliminate or say the reduce redundancy. It's not possible. For example, when we talk about the real-time database, it's not always possible that we can eliminate redundancies completely, right? We can reduce redundancies, but it's practically, it's a kind of, it's take a lot of effort, it require a lot of, we can understand like what how we perform the normalization, what cost we have to pay for performing the normalization, right? So we can reduce efficiently the redundancies and all, right? So what basically happens when we have the redundancy, when we talk about in database, right? Understand, redundancy in database means this problem actually occurs when in a database table if two or more independent relations are stored in a single database, right? So two or more independent database relations are stored in a single table, in a single table, say single relation, we say that redundancy may occur in that case, right? For example, let's try to understand. Let's take an example, right? So I have already framed an example over here. You can just see, right? I have maintained a table, for example, I'm just saying this one, right? In this table, we have SID, SNAME, age, right? We have CID, CNAME, instructor, and fee. All these are our attribute, right? And I have just taken some sort of values over here, right? So if you look at this database table, the values that we have, right? uh, Notice that in the CID, CNAME, and instructor, for example, I'm just talking about in this certain attribute over here, these values are repeating here. Same values in these are repeating. Yes or no? And also same in this case. For example, talk about S3 ID, student ID, right? The same student name with same age here, for example, enrolled in different courses with CID, C1, C2, and C3. This is one. But again, this thing is, you can see this is being repeated over here. Yes or no? So this is what these are what your independent tables. Independent redundant data, we used to see independent redundant data, right? So these actually create problems over here, right? Understand, when we talk about redundancy, and we generally used to talk about the anomalies that we used to have in our database, right? So generally, see, there are a lot of anomalies that we can have in the database, right? Before that, let me just give you a practical example. If you consider this such type of database, right? Now try to understand. I want to delete some S3 over here, right? For example, I want the student IDs with S3. The student is no more enrolled in any course, for example, in the university. We want to delete the data over this one, right? So what will happen? Corresponding to this row S3 over here, we will be deleting the data of C2, C3 as well, right? C1, C2, C3. These data will also be deleted forcefully with the deletion of S3 over here. We want to delete S3 only, not the courses over here, courses, instructor, and fee, right? In that case, definitely these things will also be deleted. If we want to delete the C1, for example, the course C1 is no longer available in the university, some university over here, we want to delete this one, then definitely on the deletion of this one, we have to delete S1, S2 details as well, S1, S2, S3 details. All these data will also be deleted. You can understand when we perform the deletion, what kind of serious concern that we are having over the database. Now understand, if you want to perform some update operation over here, for example, this age, some age 25, let's say I want to update it to some 26 or some other values. For example, I want to update it to 26 over here, right? We know this age is age of a student over here, right? So to perform the updation over here, right, what actually will happen, we need to perform this updation operation over all the values in the same, means a single value has to be updated multiple times. Understand? So basically it will obviously it will consume more time, rather than we already know, like this all complete data set contains the same set of values, right? But definitely, this is a very small database. This is just an instance of database. In practical, we have records in thousands, even in lakhs, even sometime, right? So performing all those in such way, you can just think of like this is just serious concern based with your database table over here, right? Now understand one more thing. For example, I want to insert some values over the database. For example, I want to enroll some new course over here, right? So if I want to perform some insertion operation over this database table, right, then forcefully I need to add the values for rest of the attributes as well here. right? So these are what forcefully we need to add some values over here. These are what certain, anomalies, the practical anomalies that is generally, encounter when we have our database which is not normalized in format, not refined database, right? So in broad we talk about three type of anomalies. The first one is your insertion over here, right? The second one is your, say, deletion, and third is your updation, right? So yeah, insertion, basically to insert some data. Yeah, right. We forced to insert other independent data over here. That is what your insertion. And in deletion, because of deletion of some data, forced to delete other independent data as well. Right, we saw. And in updation, if some redundant copy is updated, other redundant copy fail to update. For example, which causes inconsistency over here, right? For the same S3, I am updating 26 over here, but in case if these are not updated, right, then there is an inconsistency over database, right? I need to select all those rows where, I have the S3 and I need to perform the updation over there, right? So due to this reason, our database is obviously it's not normalized over here, right? It's not a good database, not database that can be used, right? So for that we need to perform the something called as normalization over here, right? So in broad, if we talk about the normalization, when we perform our database single table, right, what actually normalization does is basically it splits our database table, or say it decomposes our database table relation. We perform the decomposition over here, right? Splitting the database table into more than one, different tables over here, right? For example, if you take this one over here, the scenario, right? What I can do is, for example, SID, S name, and what is, I can take this as a one relation R1, right? Then I can take CID, C name, and for example, instructor as another table R2, and I can say that R3 is my another table in which I have taken, SID, CID, and then fee, and these are what foreign keys and these are primary keys. In this way I can, this is one of the method, this is not the only method, this is one of the method that we can follow as a part of normalization, so that our database will be, free from anomalies, right? So what actually done here is, in this one where we talk about how we have resolved this issue. In this one, when we take the SID, S name, and age, right, in this single table, right, then and we perform that, we use some constraint over a single attribute, that is SID. We say that this is a primary key, then we know primary key properties are what, unique and not null. We cannot have values, same values repeating multiple times. That's the uniqueness. So S3B and 25 will be written only one time over here. So we can formulate our R1 table will looks like something. For example, SID, S name, and age, right? So S1A 20, S2B 20, and S3B 25. That's it, right? So we can see, if I want to change the age of some student S3, probably by updating to 26, right? In a single row, I can change the values over here. But in this case, I need to update multiple values for the same one, right? This is how we can, perform the decomposition over normalization table. And it's not like we can perform, decomposition in any way. I mean, there is some method. That's what normalization is all about, right? So this normalization basically can be, 1NF, 2NF. These are what different, the methods that we will see how we perform the normalizations, right? So this is how, we perform the decomposition part over normalization here. Now here there is something called as, we can achieve a 0% redundancy, right? So that means no normalize, no anomalies, basically it's already been normalized, right? This is what, so okay, what I mean to say is, I see when I just said this one R1 table, for example, I'm just taking about R1, SID is the primary key and S name and is, right? So we have already, we are already familiar with this thing. For example, I said this is the primary key. It means what? SID, from SID we can retrieve S name, Yes or no? This is what the arrow I have already, when we were just doing the key part, primary key, foreign key, and all those, at that point of time, I just told you, right? What's the meaning of this one? This is, we say as functional dependency, right? If you remember. So this means what? SID, if I have the value of SID, probably I can give you the value of SName. In the same way for age as well. That's why this is the primary key over here. You can just think like SID is the leader of this table. And being a leader, we can have the values of SName and age by providing the value of SID over here, right? So this is how um, yeah, so this is how we we get the values over here, for example, over here, right? So this is the normalization, right? So we will see basically what basically the normalization is all about in depth. But before starting a normalization, there are a few points that we need to understand, right? So few points, or you can say small topics, that we actually have to mastery over those. If we understand those subtopics properly, then normalization is just a game of minutes. Within a minute you can perform the normalization, right? But understanding those subtopics before normalization is very important, right? For example, let's start from the very first one. Everyone have to pay attention properly, because if you will understand, you're properly understanding this, the very beginning of any topic, right? You won't face any issue in the upcoming topics, right? Okay, the first one is functional dependency. We will now go in depth of functional dependency over here, right? We have just a test of what functional dependency is when we were doing the key part, right? But now let's understand in depth over here, right? So I'm just writing, just pay attention over here. For example, functional dependency, always remember we find out the functional dependency over attributes only, right? This is a feature of attribute over here, right? So now understand, I'm saying X and Y be some attribute. These are some, attributes over here. Okay, fine so far. Now I am saying that representation is something like that, X arrow Y. I'm saying that X arrow Y is a functional dependency. In short, I'm writing FT, right? Such that if there exists a function, for example, FD, I'm saying that's has to determine the scenario. Try to understand, right? I'm saying that X arrow Y is a functional dependency. When I say that there exists a function, right? There exists some function that says that if I gave you the value of X, probably you can compute the value of Y, right? Try to understand, when I say functional dependency, right, there is a very minute difference between functions that we have studied in mathematics so far, or maybe used to have the functions of mathematics, right? And the other term is functional dependencies over here, right? The word is a kind of analogous to functions over here, function that performs some functionalities, right? For example, understand, I'm writing this one, f of x determines y, for example. We are familiar with this one, right? In the mathematics, we have some function f of x that is basically your y. We say y equals to f of x, right? We have the domain and we have the codomain, or say the range over here, right? This is just a mathematics. But in mathematics, understand what used to happen is when we have some function over here basically, right? In the function, when we perform, or when we give some value of x, the function actually computes for the value of y, right? F of x compute for the value of y over here. But understand here in this one, when we talk about the functional dependencies of database, f of x do not compute here, do not compute over here, do not compute for value of y. Rather, what actually happens is it checks if the y value is available in the database table that we have for x and y. Understand, right? Computing means where we have some function, right? And we are putting the value and we are determining the values if it is there. So definitely, if I put the value of x, I will be having some value y here. Y can be any value, for example, it depends on the function. But in this case, when we talk about the database, right, when we provide the x value over here to the database, for example, and we are looking for some y value, if the corresponding value x is present in the database, we are going to have the value from the database. If there is no value in the database for y, then definitely we are not getting any value over here, right? For example, okay, we have taken the value x and y for attribute. Let's take the database table. For example, I have some values, random values a, b, c, d, and 1 2 1 3, for example. In this scenario, right, in this scenario, if I say x determine y, so is this scenario successfully or success or not, for example, right? What I mean to say here is, if I provide you the value of x, can you look at the table, can you provide me the value of y or not? I'm saying that x is a, so can you give me the value of y? Yeah, that is what 1 over here, right? In that way, if I ask you any of the value of x which I present over here, corresponding value of y, you can compute and give me. Compute word here implies whether the value is available in the database table or not, right? So this is the way of we writing the values over here, right? But try to understand, is this always true over here? Probably no. For example, if I'm taking the database table, something like that, let's say x and y are two attributes and I have the values over here. For example, a b c, some values, and 1 2 3 1. Now understand, right? I'm saying that, okay, let me check whether x determines y. Understand, when there is a the term that we have for x and y, right? This one, when we write these functional dependencies, I say this term which is on the left hand side, this is called determinant. Remember, determinant, right? And this is on the right hand side called is dependent. So obviously this y depends on x value. I will not be getting the value of y until and unless I will not specify for the value of x, or say ask for the value, provide the value x basically, right? So this is called determinant. It determines the value of y. So x determines y is the reading style that we used to follow in terms of when we talk about functional dependencies, right? So now here I'm saying, is this feasible functional dependency? If I say x determines y, can I say this one? Let's check it out. Here in this one, but we have the value something or like this one. We have two a's, b and c. So if I provide you the value of x as a, can you compute the value of y from the table, right? So see here, how many two a's we are having. That means two x values are here, the same values, but see the y values, these are what different, right? So a can have either one value or probably a can have what two values as well. But understand, this is just a kind of confusion over here, anomaly. For example, I ask you for the value of y, I have provided you the value of a only, right? So database table, or for example the database compiler, will be confused which value has to return. It's not like that the first value which came in the table should be returned. No, nothing like that, right? A can have two value as well, the value of two at the same point of time, right? So understand how I'm writing this mathematically. You need to understand that. For example, f of x, I'm saying that f of x determines some value of y over here, right? I said that I have the value of 1. Can you tell me from where this value? Okay, let me write in other way. Let me explain you in some other way. I'm saying that I have the value a which came from, I have the value 1 which came from a. So that means when I gave you a, probably I got the value 1 the same way, right? And I'm saying that this is true. Understand, this is true. I am saying that for 1 I am having a. This is the relation over here, for example, right? Now understand, I am saying another situation. I'm saying that for 1 I have the b value, and for 2 I have the value a. From here I'm just writing. Now I am saying that, can you tell me if this scenario is true? If this is true, understand the mathematics over here. If this is true, then out of this one, can you tell me which is for sure not true? Which is not true over here? Can you tell me which one? See, by looking at this database table, basically, right? But this one, for when we have the 2, we get to know the value of 2 came from A. This is what we are saying, right? But this implies what? When we have the value 1, this is basically received from the value B over here. But that is not the case. When we have the value of 1, basically it came from the value A, not from the B. So this is what? For sure false, right? So this is what I actually, this is if you remember, this is called your rules of inference in your discrete mathematics, right? Rules of inference. It implies what? If something is true, can we say that the other part, that is a resultant part, will also be true or will not be true? Not true, that means false over here, right? So by looking at the table, we can say that on giving the value of x equals to 1, for example, if I say x equals to 1 or y equals to 1, you can just assume in any way, we can have a value, right? But when we say it's but not be at the same point of time, that's what I'm saying over here. We can have a value because I'm saying that this is for sure true, then we cannot have the value b over here, right? And this is what I mean to say, for the same value of x we should have the same value of y. If I'm saying that my x values are same multiple time, then we cannot have different values of y when we are talking about the functional dependency. X determines y over here, right? So this is, you can understand, I mean, if I can take back to you in the mathematics part over here, when we talk about the, as I just told you, functional dependency is more or less related to a function part over here, right? So understand, when we have some function f of x, for example, now I'm talking about, mathematics part over here is a little one, so that you can have a better understanding. We provide the value of x, right? We provide the value of x to the function f of x, and probably we get the value of y, right? Then we say that, yeah, f of x is a function. But in case when we provide the value x as an input and we get y, probably we can get z as well, or we can get some value t. There is a possibility of getting multiple values. In that case, this f of x is not a function, remember. And there is a testing condition, test criteria, if you remember, in you talk about mathematics, right? Just like this one, for example, I'm understanding in a plotting way, for example, you can understand whether better visualization. For example, this is some values over here for them, right? So now I have this point, let's say I'm considering this point over here and this one. So it means what? For x equals to 1, I have the value of y. This is y-axis, this is x-axis. When x equals to 1, I have y value 1. That's fine. Now see, when x equals to 2, I have one value as positive plus 2. Yes or no? But also when x equals to 2, I have the value minus 1 as well. So we have two values for x equals to 2. For 3, we have the one value, that is 1. But understand, when for the same value of x, we have multiple y values, this is not a function, right? And what's the test criteria? We draw a horizontal, this one, vertical line, right? If the vertical line intersects at more than 1 point, then that is basically not a function. I mean, in your, secondary school and all, we have, understood this one very well, right? So it means what? For the same value of x, we have multiple y value, then that is not a function. Same way, for the same value of x, we are having multiple y values. So this is not a feasible functional dependency. We cannot say this is a valid functional dependency, right? So I guess you have now understood somewhat. If you have any doubt, you can just ask over here. So we can move on to, formal definition of your functional dependency, how we write whatever we have understood, right? So as I told you, let's say x and y are, some attributes, of relation R. For example, we have the relation R and x and y are attribute. Now let's say two imaginary tuples t1 and t2. T1 and T2 are, any tuples of relation R, tuple of R, right? So this is what, for example, this is a relational database table, and X and Y are some attribute. We can have other attributes as well, right? Now, these tuples are represented by, let's say, T1 and T2, two imaginary tuples pointing to any two record of relation R, right? Now I'm saying that X determines Y. This is FD in relation R, right? If and only if, when T1 dot X equals to T2 dot Y. Understand, this is single if, for example, understand, X and Y is functional dependency in relation R if T1 dot X equals to T2 dot sorry, this should be X over here. For example, we are just taking a single attribute, means for single X attribute over here we have, two different tuples. So that's why T1 dot X equals to T2 dot X. If this is true, then it means what? Our T1 dot Y should also be equals to T2 dot Y. Understood? Means what? In the X attribute, we have two different tuples T1 and T2. That is what? T1 dot X equals to T2 dot X. These are the same attribute values over here. For example, A and A, we say here, right? If this is the scenario, understand, if this is the scenario, then T1 dot Y should also be equals to T2 dot Y. Right? The y values must be same. The indirect way of telling this one is when we have the same values in the tuple for some attribute, we have the same values, we cannot have different y values over here, right? It implies that it should be equal, same values, right? So this is what the definition of functional dependencies we just say when you talk about. Yeah, so any doubt you can just ask over here.
Sir, then won't it result in redundancy? Because
No,
tuples will have same value.
same value, yeah. So this is the scenario that we have in the very beginning, right?
Yes, sir, that S3 wala.
So the solution for this one is what? We decomposing the relation. First we
Yes,
need
sir.
to identify the dependency. So understand, when we are identifying this such type of functional dependency, we are basically making a separate table over here in that way, right? In this case, if I say X is the primary key, then definitely one of them will be eliminated over here, right?
Okay, sir. Okay.
That what happens when we perform some further decompositions over here, performing the normalization. But before normalization, definitely I just told you we need to have the knowledge of functional dependencies. Normalization, there is a big role. Everything that will be done is under functional dependencies only,
Sir,
right? So
is
when
the
we
decomposition same as some data pre-processing stuff?
Uh, you can say, because when we talk about the database, right, for example here, right, so making data efficient, or say optimized data, that is what you can say, pre-processing, and kind of basically, this term is more or less related to your machine learning or deep learning and all, right? Because when we perform something, like when we are using some data for fitting the data into some model, then we need to
Yes, sir.
pre-process it, right? So here it's a kind of same, because we want to perform some operations in the in the table. We want to perform the operations are basically your queries over here, right? So to perform the queries over on some database table, we need to perform some manipulation over the database, so that there should be no anomalies, or there should not be error occur over the database. That's what the term analogous to pre-processing, you can just say over here, right? So
Okay, sir.
pre-processing or something like, but this is just basic, making your database efficient to perform some queries over here to get some values without any error and all those, right? So basically this is the definition for your functional dependencies. For example, let me have some examples for. Now I'm saying that I have relational database table. In this one, I have SID, S name, and CID, for example. This is just an example for over here. Now I'm saying values are something like this one, S1, S1, for example, same values, A. Let me take different CIDs. Now S2, S3, and S4 some values, and then some B and C, and C1, C3. Now I'm asking you, for example, I have given you some dependency like this one, that is SID gives SNAME. You need to check whether this dependency is valid or not based on this database and the values over here. If I'm saying that by giving the understand the meaning how I'm reading, if you are given the value of SID, you can uniquely tell the value of SNAME. So over here in this database, if I'm saying you the value of S1, right? If I'm saying you the value of S1, can you give me the corresponding SNAME value out of the database? See, for S1, we have the value A, that is A, right? So for S1A, 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 there is nothing wrong. If I'm giving you the value of S2, can you give me the SNAME? Yeah, that is B. For S3, it is again B, and S4, it is C. So there is nothing wrong with this one value, this functional dependency. Right. But if I say, if I give you SID, can you give me the CID? Now let's check it out. I am giving you the S1 value. With this one value, I have the C1 value. That's fine. But also for S1 in the second one, I have C2. So with this one, we cannot have this functional dependency. So this functional dependency cannot be possible over here. Right. So I hope you have understood. There are a lot of examples, right? But the concept we have understood so far, right? So in this way, we identify whether the functional dependencies are available or not. Understand, we are checking this functional dependencies feasibility based on the values in the database we have. But we will see that in the upcoming topics, we'll see that we are going to have only, attribute, not the values, only names of the attribute, and we'll have the functional dependencies. So without looking at the values, considering the values, we need to identify whether the functional dependency is possible or not. Right. So this is what we will see in minimal cover and canonical cover and all those membership and all that. Right. So understood so far with the help of values, how we check whether the functional dependencies are possible or not. Right. So now, since we have understood about the functional dependencies, now we have several different types of functional dependencies in the database. Right. So understand those. The first one is your trivial functional dependencies. Trivial FD. In short, I'm writing FD stands for functional dependencies. We say this as a self-functional dependency also sometimes. Right. So trivial, understand what basically the trivial is. For example, I'm saying that X determines Y is a trivial functional dependency. If I'm saying this one, right, what it means to say, how I can say this is a trivial, if, understand, if Y is subset of X over here. Understand, I say X and Y, it's not that X and Y are a single attribute, single attributes. Basically we can have multiple attribute as well. This is basically called as a composite key when we say about, if you're familiar, right? So composite means we can have more than one attribute in X and Y, right? For example, I'm saying that I have a relational database table in which my attribute are ABCD, for example. And we understood the different representations when we were doing, the ER model, right? In there, we understood different representation. One of them is this one, which will be widely used in normalization, right? So this is my R is the name of the table, and A, B, C, D are my attribute in the tables, right? So if I'm saying that A determines BC, so this is what my X and this is what my Y over here. right? So x and y, and even it can be a b determines c. Now this is my x and this is my y. In that way, I'm saying that x determines y is a trivial functional dependency. You need to make sure that y is a subset of x, right? Understand what it means. AB determines, let's say, a. This is what my x, this is what my y. So is y, that is a, is subset of x. We understand, we know the subset, why, what the subset means, right? If the value, if the y is present in the x, that is what the subset means. Y is basically a part of x. So here a is basically what, subset of ab. Is this true? Yeah. Why? Because this a is completely contained inside this one here, a over here, right? So that's why this say, we say that this such type of functional dependency is your trivial functional dependency, right? We can understand, like trivial means, in we talk about in a layman, if we talk about the trivial word, trivial means obviously, right? Obviously we have, it means word. Understand what the basic meaning of this one. When I return ab is giving, for example, b, it means what, we talk about the functional dependency way. When we talk about the database, in this case, I'm saying that if I gave you the value of A and B collectively, can you tell me the value of B? So you see, this is obvious. The information that I am providing you over here is the, again, I'm just asking from you. So this is what your trivial, right? So understand, this is the required condition over here. This is the important condition, that the y must be a subset of x over here, right? And remember one thing, every possible trivial function dependencies always exist in your relational database schema by default, right? So default functional dependency of any relation schema are trivial functional dependencies. Understood? So these are what your trivial functional dependency over here, the first part. The second is your something called as non-trivial. Non-trivial functional dependency, right? So the same representation, if I say x determines y over here, is a non-trivial, is a non-trivial functional dependency, right? So it means what, understand, when we talk about the non-trivial, it says that there is no common attribute in x and y, right? There should be no common attribute in x and y, right? How we represent this thing in a set theory, x intersection y should be phi empty, right? So this condition should be true. In case if this is true, then we say that x determine y is a non-trivial functional dependency. For example, in the relational database table are a b c d attribute, I say a determines c, right? If I say a b determines c, even this is what, non-trivial, because there is nothing common on both sides over here, right? So understood so far? The third one and the last one is something called as your semi non-trivial functional dependency. Semi non-trivial functional dependency, right? It means what, this type of functional dependencies are the combination of trivial and non-trivial functional dependencies, right? For example, if I say a determines ab, right? We will understand that in the next topic, that is called your Armstrong's axioms. We can split this functional dependency. How? We can write a determines a and a determines b to this one, right? But this is not the scenario when we have something called as a b determines a. We cannot do that. We'll understand this conceptually why we cannot do that, right? But understand the left hand side part, we have the single attribute. On the right hand side part, we have the multiple attribute, set of attribute. We can decompose that. This is what Armstrong axioms say about the rule, one of the rule, right? The split rule we will see. So basically it means to say what, this one, a determines a, this is what you are, trivial functional dependency, and this A determines B is your non-trivial functional dependency. So basically this functional dependency is the combination of both, so-called semi non-trivial functional dependencies.
Sir,
Yeah,
sir, if there is a function A determines BC,
yeah.
then
A determines BC. This is completely your non-trivial because there is nothing common in both the sides.
so this won't fall in this heading, right?
Yeah, we can split them. There is nothing wrong. A determines B and A determines C. Still,
C.
this is what? Non-trivial. Each of them is, nothing common on X and Y and, right?
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So this is the split rule of, Armstrong axiom basically. Okay, so let's do that, right? It's very short. We'll finish up in the 5 minutes. That is called your Armstrong's rule over functional dependency. What are these Armstrong rules over functional dependencies? Right. I'm saying that X, Y, Z are some attributes set over relation some relation, let's say R, for example. Right. So the rules given by the Armstrong are something like this one. The first one goes for reflexivity. Reflexivity. The spelling right? Yeah, I think. Right. So reflexivity means what? For example, I say X determines X. Basically, it's always true. And we have seen this is your trivial functional dependence. So all the trivial functional dependency falls under, something called reflexivity. Yeah. Right. But make sure both sides should be same. Definitely only then. Right. For example, if I have Y, then Y determines Y is again trivial and say the reflexivity rule over here. The second is transitivity. Transitivity over here. It says what? Understand. If I say X determines Y and Y determines Z, then definitely X will determine Z, right? The transitive rule in the mathematics relation of function, you're quite familiar. We used to study, right? The third one is augmentation. Augmentation. Understand this is what? If I say X determines Y, right? Then understand I can say that XZ determines YZ, always true. I have augmented a different attribute over the both of the side, right? So with this one X and Y, I have added the Z attribute as well. There is no effect over the functional dependencies. This will always hold true for the same, right? But make sure the same attribute should be there. The next one is split rule. This is called as your split rule, right? So understand, if I say X gives YZ, right? Then I can say I can split X gives Y and X gives Z. This is the split rule. Understand, in this one left hand side part we have a single attribute. In the right hand side we can have more than one, right? So this is called your split rule. And the last one is union, right? So what union says, if X gives Y, X determines Y and X determines Z, just opposite of split rule, then we can say that X determines YZ holds true always. Kind of obvious thing, right? I mean, the things that we are already familiar with, the most of them, other than the split rule, I guess, and augmentation, right? So these are the certain axiom rule which are, we used to study as a part of database, right? So what's the use, we'll see in the next upcoming topics. For example, in your membership test, we will understand your canonical cover, equality of functional dependencies over there, minimal cover, and all those, right? These things, axioms, are will also be used in your will be we will be using in normalization part as well, small at some some point of time. So okay, I think that's for today. In the next class we will start from the next topic, probably that will be understanding more about finding the candidate key, super key, and all those, right? From the given set of functional dependencies, we need to find out how many, so the total number of candidate keys possible, right? So understand, okay, for the next class, if you have done this thing, I don't know, in your design and analysis of algorithms module that you just studied, in the very last you have something called a topic with name approximations. As far I just remember, you used to study that. In that approximations, you used to study about different type of problems that we have, includes p problem, different types, that is np problem, np hard, and np complete, npc. So remember, right? So this is just just an information. Probably in the next class you just have, if you information about this one, you can just have the idea what actually used to happen in this one. Remember, we need to find the number of candidate keys. We'll be given a set of functional dependencies, right? Remember this, finding the total number of candidate key is your np complete problem. np complete problem, right? Means there is no certain algorithm exist right now so far that can help you out to compute the total number of candidate keys available in the database. So computation of candidate key, remember, is an np complete problem. How we'll see in the next class, right? So I hope you have understood so far. Let me know if you have any issue. Let me stop the recording.